The man you know as Deputy Mark Burbridge, a hero and a friend, was our dad. Though he wasn't my dad by blood, he walked into my life when I was 4 and didn't bat an eye, figuring out what his role in my life would be. He stepped up to be the man I needed. I know it has to be hard coming into someone's life with a child that is not your own, let alone a little 4-year-old with a big attitude. He did the absolute most to win me over from the minute he walked in the door, when we said our first hellos, to being bossed around while coloring with me, being told what colors to color where, to letting me dress him up, to giving me pony rides to bed every night. One night, my mom had sent me to get my pajamas on and brush my teeth, which I really wasn't too happy about, and he could tell. So to try to seem like he was more on my side, he replied with, "That mean old mom of yours making you get ready for bed, huh?" I peeped my head around the corner, looked at him, and said, "Well, if you don't like her, you can just go home." I'm sure he didn't know how to respond to that one, but I'm glad he didn't just go home and stuck around. He did end up winning my heart over and ended up being one of the biggest parts of my life. Dad loved cars. He was constantly fixing something on our vehicles or tinkering with some project he was working on. He was a mechanic, as mentioned before he switched to law enforcement, and even then he never really stopped being a mechanic. I remember when I was little, he'd pick me up from school and take me all over with him, picking up parts here, parts there, and all I wanted to do was go home and watch cartoons. This never really changed all the way growing up either. One time we took a road trip to pick up an old car he was going to restore, and it sat in our driveway for years not being touched. Dad was also the king of unfinished projects. He always loved going to car shows, so in high school, him and I took a father-daughter trip to Minnesota to go to a car show, and in return for spending hours and hours of looking at old cars, he took me to Mall of America shopping with me for hours and hours. My dad, alongside my mom, has taught me to be very independent. Dad, of course, took over the side of things that would consist of teaching me to do things I would need a man in my life to do, such as changing my oil or a tire, even though, let's face it, it's easier to take your car to Grease Monkey for an oil change or have a couple of state troopers come rescue you on the side of the highway to change your tire for you. He also tried, emphasis on tried, teaching me to drive a stick. I wanted to learn so bad, so one day we hopped in the old Volkswagen pickup and decided we would just take it out on the highway and stay away from the city. As we got closer to town, I was wondering where we were going to turn around and head back home, and all of a sudden he looks over at me and says, I need to run to the parts store. Like I said, things never changed from when I was little. So I continued into Omaha, down L Street towards the parts store, where I got stuck at a stoplight going uphill. I sat through 3 stoplights because I kept killing the truck. I, of course, was getting frustrated as people were honking and staring at me, and Dad kept just telling me to keep trying. At one point, I was so mad I about started crying. I opened the door and said, "You just drive." He got the dad voice going and said, "Don't you dare start crying." And he's like, "Get back in, you've got this." And next thing you know, we were on our way again. As you can about imagine, when we got to the parts store, I made him drive home. In all honesty, yeah, I liked learning about the things that he did or that he taught me to be more independent, but when it came down to it, all I really wanted to do was spend time with him. He could have taught me how to completely rebuild a car, and I would have sat there and listened to him because it's what he loved and I loved him. There are so many memories about him that I could share. Anything from his sweet tooth and how he always knew if there were 1 or 2 peanut butter cups missing from his bag of them in the freezer, to all of his jokes and him always messing with us to be funny, to making me cry when I was little when he told me I sounded like a frog when I sang, to me bringing a boy home and him being protective, asking if he needed to get his gun out and have a good talk with them to scare him a bit. The list goes on. At the end of the day, he was your hero when he was wearing that badge and uniform, but he was our hero every day, whether he was in a uniform or not. We love you so much, Dad.
Instead of giving a speech, I chose to just read the letter I decided to leave in my dad's casket. Dear Dad, I want you to know just how much you mean to me. I love you more than anything in the world, and I'm going to miss you until the day I die. You and I were going to do a lot together. You were going to give me my first beer, you were going to help me fix up my first car, and you were going to take me on my first four-wheeler trip. But I don't always remember you by what we couldn't do together. I instead wanted to thank you for everything that you gave me. You gave me a sense of respect for everyone. You gave me an experience in construction, being a mechanic, and occasionally being an electrician. You made sure I knew when to keep my mouth shut, even though sometimes you had a tough time with that as well. After countless lectures on how I couldn't mow the lawn right, wasn't doing this right, or not doing that right, I learned to do it good enough to do it for a job. I also must thank you for taking me to Hooters for my 10th birthday. You're a man I can be proud of being my dad, and I will always have stories from you that ended with a "don't tell Jessica," or "don't tell your mom." But after all of this, I can always thank you for setting me down the right path in life and always teaching me to just roll with it.
A lot of you knew my dad by his uniform, but I knew him off-duty when he became dad, not deputy. I would like you all to know what he was like without his badge, and I thought what better way to do that than to tell you some of my favorite memories of him. My favorite memories with my dad were simple ones, like when he taught me to drive in my great-grandma's red Buick LeSabre. On Wednesday nights, he would make Ovaltine shakes, and we would watch American Pickers with my head on his lap. Every year, he bought me a pair of Vans for my birthday, and he even bought a pair of Vans to match with me, even though he thought they were the most uncomfortable shoes ever. My dad got me started on guitar when I was 7 and helped me through it until I was about 12. I was a huge daddy's girl growing up as well as a little tomboy, so we shot guns and bows, he took me camping and four-wheeling, and we played video games together like Guitar Hero and Call of Duty Ghosts. He liked rock music and starting projects, emphasis on starting. He got white and black Nike Air Maxes every year for 3 years in a row. He practically lived in Menards, Home Depot, and Harbor Freight. He wore silly shirts like one that said, "This is what awesome looks like." He would complain about having a gut and an hour later be snacking. Some of his favorite snacks were corn nuts, green or purple monsters, Nutty Bars, and JoJo's because he swore they were better than Oreos. A lot of people tell me how much of a hero he was because of what he did for the community, and I agree, he was a hero, my hero. But not because he risked his life for the safety of others, but because he protected me from the monsters under the bed to the ones that walk the streets. Not only did he protect me, but he also had the exhausting and expensive job of raising me to be a decent person. He taught me how to be caring, independent, and strong. To sum it all up, he was a great cop, but an amazing dad. Thank you, I miss you, but overall, I love you, Dad.